Park out here.
I would just probably pull forward. Jog 100.
We're the two longest term Nike guys, Nelson and I.
Okay,
How you doing?
Okay.
So,
Mike.
Mike Nelson.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I'm Bob Smith.
Bob.
I've been there for almost 7 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, so you guys are all from Nike?
yeah,
Yeah.
we're all from Nike.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Biggest film guys. And I ran for Bill in the 60s, and so
That's cool.
went to school with Tom. We were both in architecture together,
Huh?
and we were same year. And I was on the team with Jay,
Okay.
and so
Nice little history here. So.
yeah. Just kind of spent a lot of time over the years up here. This was one of my real touchstones, being up here at this house. So.
It's a lovely spot. It's just awesome.
Yeah, it is great.
It's got so much history beyond just.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Wow.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of take them through
Yeah,
some
help
of the
yourself.
changes on the house that Tom made, and
Yeah, we got a.
get an idea.
good
I
little
heard you got the
table.
pool table. Yeah, I've heard about that.
That's
I'm
what
gonna
really hurts.
I'm gonna miss that.
Barbara warned me.
Yeah, exactly.
Little table.
So if you guys want a game, of course.
Yeah.
Help yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, this kitchen has changed a little bit in that there used to be an island right here, and I think Barbara had the stove in the middle, and then the sink was over there, and they've just kind of rearranged all this. The windows have all changed, and they finally put thermal pane windows in. They used to have just the old single pane glass, and but Bill literally pretty much built this house himself with the help of a few of the professors at the university. Barb was telling me on Tuesday that he had never pounded a nail before. Hey Tom, good to see you, guy. Yeah, welcome.
Hi.
Look at this crowd.
Yeah,
You remember Nelson?
Hi, Nelson Farris. How you doing?
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
These
Oh,
are
no, you don't have
some of these young guys. But I was just telling about some of your work and some of your changes you did here on the house.
Yeah.
With the windows, some new plumbing, all new floors.
Yeah, this was out to the dirt. Here.
Wow. This is good.
Some new some of the cabinets new.
Yeah, they're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this there used to be a little door there and a little door there, and then this was all solid kitchen counter. Yeah, a few changes. What's that?
You went to architecture school together?
I graduated in architecture.
Yeah, see, he made a distinction.
Yeah.
And your distinction was?
I didn't graduate in architecture. I started,
Oh,
finished up in art.
That's great.
World headquarters, and he completely redid it, walls, everything, old typewriter, kind of turned it into a, like a 1960s, 70s look. And then he found this old product hanging.
Yeah, we went to archive.
You cannot believe what some of this old Nike
Oh man.
athlete product is selling for. You got a warm-up suit. Did you
Yeah,
buy
I
that in New York?
Yeah, I had this week at the vintage shop.
$600.
Don't throw anything away.
Barb has told me, I don't know how many times, how many acres did your parents end up buying over a period of time? Is it over 200 now?
well, yeah.
Do you include the 40 down below?
Well, yeah. It's 1947 or 48. Then the next year, Bill bought the remainder on the advice of a judge that he knows, Roland Rodman, because it had the spring on it. And that was the way it sat for years and years and years. And then, probably about 20 years ago, picked up each one of the successive pieces of property that was around here that we could.
Yeah.
So I think it's about 400 acres.
I had in my office, I said, don't ask me for advice on that subject because I'm really setting a poor example.
I'm out of your mode.
Now, we're still selling our house, the houseboat in Scappoose, so it's still on the market. Sig Ullman's marketing it for us now. And the traffic's picked up. I mean, it's definitely better now than it was last fall.
I see.
It was pretty ugly last fall.
Uh-huh.
And, but, the houses, the builders are putting up walls up north. And, it was incredible to see your dad that young. We've always seen still photography, but to see moving footage is a whole different, it just takes it a whole nother leap. And it's a friend of your parents called Bob Shangles. Does that ring a bell? No, Bob Shangles. He's got a publishing company up in Beaverton. So, I'm going to talk to him on Wednesday and see what we need to do to get the rights to use some of this stuff. just happened to run into Keith Richard.
The rights to use the film?
Yeah,
Whose is it?
it's his. His dad shot that stuff, back when he was just in high school himself.
I see.
And it's pretty cool. You see all the old cars, you know, the people sitting in the stands with, you know, I mean, all the men wore hats back then and fedoras and stuff like that. Everybody came so dressed up. I mean, you know, you saw men in suits and ties and going to track meets, you know. And your dad was the same way out on the field. You see the big double-breasted.
Yeah.
You guys make
Sure.
sure.
This is growing over the edge into the track, and it's kind of
No
rough
real
hewn.
defined curve.
Oh,
you
wow.
know.
And the long jump pit in one scene is next to a fence,
A big high
a
fence.
big high fence, and this guy's like running down this half of a tunnel, and he runs down and he jumps in this like, you know, kind of a ill-defined dirt pit. It was, you looked at it and go, my God. Plus, the interesting thing is all the guys looked like men.
Yeah, yeah.
There were not any boys here.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was,
Yeah.
they were beefy, like, you looked like farm boys, and the big, strong kids running track. It was quite a show.
That's one thing we're impressed with, looking at the athletes of Medford back then. And when you think about the time, you know, post-World War II, and, you know, you had free weights, and that was about it. And all these guys were just, you know, studly legs and bills on them. I mean, they were really put together. So my guess is beyond, you know, lifting some weights, which probably wasn't too sophisticated back then. Plus, I know your dad wasn't a huge proponent of weightlifting when we were at Oregon in the '60s. A lot of these kids had to work on the farms and stuff
Exactly.
like that, and they were just really well
Mills,
built.
farms. That was back when people really did
Yeah.
grow up, you know, doing everything that
Yeah.
they had to do to
A lot of
put food
physical,
on the table.
exercise. Yeah. But there were some real horses. We were real impressed with the bills on these guys.
Yeah.
They looked like college kids. I mean, we said, oh, there's a bunch of college kids. No, it's a high school.
Yeah.
And what was it, M? Was it M we were looking at?
Yeah, it was the M with the wings
on it.
with the wings
It was
on
like
it.
Multnomah.
You know, it reminds me of looking at those pictures of the people that went off to World War II and they're 17, 18 years
Yeah.
old, and the kind of, you look at them and they look like they're really adults.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you look at the kids going off into the Army now and they're 17, 18, 19, 20, they look like kids.
Yeah.
It's a different look.
Yeah, yeah.
No, you're right. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we saw immediately.
I
Yeah,
can't
Nelson,
explain that.
when Nelson first saw the footage, he thought he was looking at college
I
kids.
did. I said, oh, look, this
I
is
said, no. I said,
college
he thought it was Multnomah Athletic. Club. I said, no, that's Medford. That's Medford.
I remember
It's the
I
Black Tornado.
was talking to Jim Jaco about a month ago about this, and he said, you know, Josh is the age of my dad when my dad was flying in World War II, flying bombing missions in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And I look at what my dad was doing at that time, and I look at Josh right now, and he said, I would never send Josh out because he doesn't have the mental. I mean, he is like a kid.
right.
He doesn't have that. I mean, it's like there's a completely different whole mental and physical relationship that exists now.
The level of responsibility.
Responsibility,
back then was a
yeah.
lot higher.
Yeah.
If you didn't milk the cow every day, then the cow would die. So the guys had to get up every at 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it's great.
Well. Looks like somebody left their dental floss. Probably me.
Good idea. I
They
mean,
are,
I like that
very,
idea of kind of the desert boot.
They are the desert. They are
Yeah.
the military desert.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what that is? That is that nylon, or is that all leather?
Yeah, it's a Cordura nylon.
Oh, yeah.
So it's with leather on the outside. It's not waterproof until you really start greasing them down. They come just, they might as well be sponges, but they're very, the thing that I like about them especially is your feet don't sweat in them.
Really?
And with Nikes, I always have a problem with that because
Yeah.
they put that foam liner in there. It just
Yeah.
drives me nuts. And these that have no liner, they're just, and they breathe through the sides real nicely. And they wear like, and they put real rubber.
Yeah.
You can get either PVC or rubber, but
Who makes those? What are those?
made by Altama, Altama.
Tom.
It's they really are a specialty military manufacturer. They make some boots for police forces and stuff, but you know, civilians can buy them. Their retail from them are about a $65, $75 boot. Very basic.
Yeah, they look really flexy and comfortable.
They are very flexible. They're relatively lightweight, especially they're the lightest weight boot I've ever had. And my son, I got up there for him, and he's been wearing hiking boots a lot. And he put these on, and he goes, "Oh man, you know, these are really, you know, it's like almost like moccasins."
Yeah.
Yeah, gee, Dad, you're not so screwed up after all.
It has that
Well, I'll tell
moccasin look.
Kirk you're on your last leg here on these boots, so.
Those things kind of flare up so you can tuck your pants in, huh?
Yeah, kind of. It's just the way I lace them.
Okay.
If I'm got stuff that's going to go down in the boot, I drop them over the top, and if I have stuff that I'm walking through dirt and stuff like that, then I keep my pants up and the
This
boots.
time of the year, that's what you'd be doing.
Yeah, they're it's back to basics on one level. It's not, there's nothing. Watch out, this stuff is, it comes and goes, these kinds of styles. But then if you get rooted in practicality, it's hard to beat the practicality of a shoe like this.
Yeah.
You're getting your money's worth out of those, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the old ideas are the best ones, right?
Yeah.
My Cordora's not that old.
So this was the old original house that was like 70 years old or something like that. Just real basic dirt, well, real thin wood over the floor. It was creaky and old. They've done a little bit of work here, but it was really, it's like stepping into an old farmhouse that they never upgraded ever. So it just had that original look worn out, It's just, it's very cool.
Is that a home brew or?
What is that, telescope?
Yeah.
So Jeff, when we
Yeah.
first came here,
Yeah.
this floor, is this original?
This is the
floor?
original floor.
And
yeah.
it was
This
like
is-
that,
This
isn't
is new. This
I
is
mean,
new.
in there was like this too. wasn't it?
I think they actually had vinyl.
Vinyl, that's
Yeah,
what it was.
just vinyl.
That's what
And then
it
they
was.
used to have they had a beautiful table here. Yeah, this painting is really a nice one, done by Brian Lanker's wife. And, Brian's an outstanding, probably one of the best photographers.
Photographer, yeah.
He's a Pulitzer Prize winning photographer.
Yeah.
And a good friend of the family, and I think that's just a beautiful painting.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a good picture.
It's beautiful.
They used to have the kitchen table used to be right here, and then you had an entrance here and here. And one of my favorite stories we had a lot of times where different groups of people would sit around. A real typical thing, if you came and visited Bill and Barbara, and if it was anywhere close to lunchtime, Barbara had the homemade soup going, the grilled cheese sandwiches, and before you knew it, boom, it was out on the table. And she'd just be working away in there saying nothing. None of us asking for lunch, and you just said, well, you boys must be hungry. And she knew what Bill liked, and we ended up eating what Bill liked. But still, one of my favorite stories was Knight had brought some Japanese businessmen here. I don't know if these guys are from the factories or if they're from Nisho Iwai.
Love where this is going.
And Knight was Bill was, really getting into the party, but they ran out of ice. And so the Japanese liked hard drinks. So Bowerman's pouring the hard drinks, and he went in and he got some of Barbara's frozen berries. And he came out and he just took handfuls of stuff and just plopped them in the guys' drinks. So they had ice in their drinks. He said, have another one, And so here they've got these floating blueberries sitting in their mixed drink. And apparently Bill was just, he was really having a very good evening. We spent a lot of times down here in the living room. This is one of Bill's favorite spots. He used to have a couple big chairs that sat right in here, and he loved just building a big fire in the fireplace. And this was his favorite place to sit and talk, and he could look out and have that beautiful view of the valley. But they built all these, the fireplace and everything. Bill built himself. He had I've talked to a couple of his athletes from the late 50s, and they helped him select the rock, got it up here off the Coburg Hills in that kind of a quarry area. And one of the things I was told by, remember Don Steen?
Yeah.
That we went to the Commonwealth Games
Yeah,
with?
right, yeah.
He remembers, going and pulling these rocks up, and that you had to be really careful because sometimes you'd pull a rock up and there'd be a rattlesnake right underneath it. And Bill thought that was all pretty funny, and that was part of the lessons learned, But Bill would kill these rattlesnakes and he'd skin them, and then he he actually incorporated some of the skin in some of our spike shoes. And that was one of the experimental uppers that he,
So that's pretty funny. So the guys were talking about snake skin. It was rattlesnake skin.
yeah, talking about rattlesnake, yeah, yeah.
Really make you run fast.
We're not worthy.
You know, I don't know, if, we can see, I feel a little uncomfortable going back to the bedroom, but it might be okay here. I think original. I don't think they insulated these. This is the original, yeah. Single pane, but look at how massive those windows are.
And up that rickety
See, I was telling you, maybe they redid the wiring. Look at the old wiring in here. I mean, that's scary. So Tuesday, I asked her to kind of recount the story. John Jaquia, who is, you know, has remained one of the Bowerman's closest friends, and you know, has been our longtime secretary on Nike's board of directors. That's his big piece of property down here, the Jaquia farm, and they've got all the orchards down there, and then the grasslands out there. And they own all the way to the edge of the McKenzie River. But the Bowermans came around, and they were. Barbara said that Bill and Barbara were canoeing down, and they came around the bend, and they stopped and had lunch on an island. And I'm not sure if it's that island there or the one right down here, but they said they looked up as they were having lunch, and they could see a picket fence. And the picket fence goes around the old Pioneer Cemetery that's up the road here. And so they hiked all the way up, looked at the land, and then, you know, Bill went down and checked the county records, found out who owned it, and it was the farmer down below, and he sold them the property up here. The original, Tom said 5 acres, and Barbara said 7.5, so it's somewhere around there. But you know, we had a lot of over the years. Bill and Barbara would invite the team up, and we had a lot of barbecues and parties here on the. You know, it was always a big thrill. Especially for the guys that were a long ways away from home, to come up and kind of have a family atmosphere and be around Barbara and Bill. Barbara was kind of like the second mother to a lot of the guys. You know, she always had her cookies and her lemonade out, and then, you know, the barbecues were great. But we spent a lot of days up here. And later on for me, you know, when you were kind of having a tough time, you know, I know I had more than once would drive all the way from Beaverton just to come down and spend some time with Bill out here. And we'd either sit out here or sit by the fire, depending on the time of the year, and just talk about the problems. And he was always very generous with his time, but also very very humble on whether he had any answers for you. You know, at the end of the conversation, he'd always say, "Well, you know, I don't know if I had any ideas or any thoughts today that really helped you out," but he always did. It was just kind of one of those real touchstones. No matter what, you always came back feeling better when you left Bill. But yeah, this place for me is a real touchstone. This house, and fortunately, I think it's going to stay available for the public to see. I think their long-term plan is this can become a public meeting place, which it kind of was for us. I mean, it was a public meeting place for us as team members for years. And we've got a lot of footage of Bill sitting out here, you know, talking with us and interviews. We did a lot of interviews out here over the years. Barbara herself was an incredible gardener, and usually, you know, grapes completely cover this whole area here. I'll take you down to where we found all of Bill's old, we couldn't believe what we found down here. This was the last visit when Bill was here to retrieve all the stuff that he would never give us over the years.
Hey, Jeff, how old is the house?
It was built in about 55.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Weigh this, he said. You know, he was not a big proponent of airbags. And there could still be maybe some cool stuff in there, but we think we got everything that's pretty important. But we found down here the contract between Bill and Phil.
Oh, you're kidding.
We found Pre's green and gold shoes. All that stuff was sitting here. All of his old shoe lasts, which you'll see down at the store. Just a ton of stuff. In the meantime, here's Barbara's preserves sitting over on the side.
Wow. God.
They haven't been opened up yet. It's kind of amazing. I don't know. We still, you know, still might eventually still find some stuff. I might have to ask Tom if I can make a trip back.
Wow.
See the old.
What a slide.
I was just telling you that Nelson, he owns a really nice piece of property. We're gonna walk around.
There's still like
Yeah.
airport phone phone.
We,
Here's an old seat from Hayward Field, seat 35. This would be about 1918 that this would have been installed.
Is there a significance to that number?
No, that's just seat 35. But hey, Nelson,
Huh?
old Hayward Field seat here from the old West Grandstands
oh, wow, yeah.
to seat 35.
35. Yeah, what's it doing out here? You want you?
Well, it's to cover up this hole.
Oh, of course.
Probably the septic.
Pretty practical use. So
But it was around this side of the house where we picked up all the old pieces of the Bowerman's original all-weather track experiments, and I think they pulled it all up now. But before they put the brick in here, Bill had laid that clear back in the early 60s as a way to just keep his feet from getting muddy as he walked from this side of the house around to the shed. And so Barbara let us just, you know, get a big scoop shovel and a big black garbage bag and just scoop this stuff up in big chunks, and we've used it for displays. But that was the original surfacing for the all-weather track experiments. I'm seeing it laying down. I think they got all of it.
What do you think? No. Wow.
you see, I stopped really fast. I'm assuming that's what that's for.
is cool. I mean, this to me is something, I mean, you know, it's sitting up there. It should be, you know, we
Right.
should have it somewhere.
What's that?
This is the old Bowerman sign I said that was on one of the trees
Oh,
as you
right.
came in.
I remember that.
It's
Yeah.
in green and yellow.
Yeah.
Probably a friend of Bill's did that. I don't think he would have done it himself. But this shed is, you know, this is when we worked on the Prefontaine movie. This is what we spent a lot of time trying to recreate. Was this old shed that looked just like this, and we did this clear up in the Seattle area, again out by that farmhouse in Snohomish. But you know, this has not changed a bit. This is just like it was when we were in college, and I'm sure Tom uses it quite a bit now.
Yeah, looks like this.
Yeah, well, he's really into, you know, woodworking, and he's got his own little mini lumber mill up there where he can cut, you know, pretty big timbers and make planks and everything.
So do you remember when you in the early days when you came out here? Do you remember
yeah.
seeing some of that stuff that
Oh,
he was
yeah.
working on?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Can you talk about that?
But he did more of his shoe work under the grandstands at Hayward Field, under the old grandstands that got torn down. He had a little lab in there. It had like one light bulb hanging down, no ventilation. They had a shoe grinder down there. That's where they resurfaced all of our heels for our shoes. And eventually he got out of that and taught the managers how to do it. And every manager, if you wanted to be a manager for the Oregon team, you had to learn how to resole the outside heel of our shoes, keep us from getting injured. But
So what sorts of things did he do out here?
he would do some of his gluing. See, all of his shoes, he never stitched anything. He really didn't know how to run a sewing machine. So all of his uppers were glued. And, you know, if he was working out here, he had open ventilation. But when he worked under the Hayward Field grandstands, there wasn't any ventilation. So that wasn't particularly healthy. And I think that's one of the reasons he developed the problems with his nervous system later on in life. But yeah, just basically gluing those shoes together. He would keep patterns at the bottom of our feet. You know, he'd always trace the outline of our foot, and that was basically where he started with. And then he'd modify the lasts, and he can do that kind of work out here too. But you know, this is a shop that accommodates a lot of things. You know, working on your car, you know, keeping the house going. I mean, this is an accumulation of decades of you know. And this had to be so much fun for him, because prior to this, they lived in small little houses. The place across from Hayward Field they first moved into, and had the two boys, and then soon had Tom. Was just a tiny little house. We'll see one of them when we go down to Hayward Field. There's still one or two left down there, but that was kind of like student housing back then. And so this had to be just, you know, a generous place. And I'm pretty convinced Bill probably built this all himself. I mean, I can kind of tell just kind of the construction style that this is probably all
What do you mean
Bill's
when you
work.
say that?
You know, certainly far from perfection, but, you know, get it done. It's not perfect, but, you know, he was happy with it, and it basically served the purpose. And, you know, he was not into perfect aesthetics, although I think the house is quite different. But I think Barbara probably was a little demanding of that, so he had to have, if she was going to live in it, it had to be a little better. But this was his space. I mean, this was kind of, you know, this is a guy's space right here. And Bill was a guy's guy, so I actually want to look up here because, you know, I don't know if I ever even looked up this.
First time?
Well, you know, I don't think I ever had a rehab come up. I don't really now.
That's right. There's the beer fridge, or the bait fridge.
What's left of the pony keg? Bed slats. I'll be darned, a German helmet.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Wow.
There's an old baby's chair, probably for one of the boys.
oscilloscope? What is? That's an old Tektronix oscilloscope. Yeah, I used to ring those home.
Look at this neat old chair. Rocking chair. There's a bunch of old videotapes. I may have to come back here and check some of this out. I mean, God knows what's
Right.
on there. Some old audio tapes.
Who is? This is just where old stuff goes to die after, huh? It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to ask for Tom's permission to come back and just kind of ramble through things.
Sure.
You know, sometimes people just don't know what they have.
Well, yeah. You can get a picture of that. Oscilloscope.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. Those are the old football cleated.
Football cleated,
Yeah.
yeah. And then
yeah.
this is just some early
Yeah,
waffle
yeah,
sole
right.
with the big nipples.
Right. Yep. Pretty cool.
Think we could take those with us, or
Probably could.
there was a whole stack of them over there. There was
Yeah.
only
Oh,
one of
let's-
those. I would
yeah,
take
let's-
that. That is
yeah, well, let's-
that's premium.
Let's just
Well,
grab both of them. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask
Can you,
Tom.
can you
Well,
describe what they are again?
Yeah, this was for football. I remember we were experimenting. Bowerman was experimenting with the waffle idea and come out with a cleat for football that worked both on grass and on AstroTurf.
That's for sure, yeah.
And then eventually, basically, the guys preferred just the regular waffle for AstroTurf.
And this is stuff that he did in the.
This would have been
How did he-
early 70s.
Early 70s.
Early 70s.
How did he press this stuff?
We had a machine shop called Mermo's, and there was a guy that worked there by the name of Sarge, and Sarge would
Sarge.
machine the molds out of steel, and then we went to Wyatt's Tire, which had the rubber compound. This is called Logger 5, which is made for log trucks for their retreads. And they would press out these. A guy by the name of Smitty would work in this back shop, and he would press these things out with heat and pressure and a mold, and that's what we used to. We cut them off. Originally, these studs, we drilled the holes all the way through, and so what would happen was, when you pulled this out of the mold, you'd have this long, looked like a big black piece of hair, and Bowerman had different ways of describing that, but it was my job to have to trim them, and so he used to call these either nipples or tits. Sorry, Rebecca. And he'd say sometimes, Hollister, you got to go do a little bit of tit trimming here. So I'd go and get the scissors out, the shears. They were really sharp, big shears, and we just trim them off. So we could use them.
Smitty, Sarge, Waffle 5. I'm
Yeah.
liking this.
Lager
or
5.
Lager 5.
Lager
This
5,
is sounding really good.
And tit
Yeah,
trimming.
tit
trimming.
tit trimming.
It's a t-shirt.
Legal won't let us do that, I'm pretty